Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Clayton, and I will be sharing with y'all my financial analysis on three different companies today. So the first company that I chose is Kohl's Corporation, the second is Nestle, and the third is Sanderson Farms Incorporated. The three things that I will be answering today are who I would like to extend a short-term loan to, a long-term loan to, and which company I would want to invest in. So to start off, we'll be looking at the current ratio, quick ratio, and cash ratio of each company. When looking at these three things, you want them to be consistent and you also want them to be high. So first we're going to take a look at Kohl's Corporation. So just a little background on the quick ratio. It's used to gauge a company's liquidity. So the quick ratio compares the total amount of cash and marketable securities and accounts receivable to the amount of current liabilities. So when looking at Kohl's current ratio, it rises from 0.21 to 0.49. So even though it's a little low, it's still good that it's rising. Next, we're going to take a look at the current ratio, which is a financial ratio that measures whether or not a firm has enough resources to pay its debt over the next 12 months. So it compares a firm's current assets to its current liabilities. This current ratio is high as well. It's 1.86, and then it rises. It's currently 1.99. And then for the cash ratio, this is generally a more conservative look at a company's ability to cover its liabilities than many other liquidity ratios. So its cash ratio is actually 0.21, and then it's currently 0.49, so that's rising as well, even though it's a little low. When I looked at Nestle's quick ratio, that was low as well. It was at 0.49 in 2013, 0.5 in 2014, and then it did a big jump and jumped to 0.68, which is its current ratio. The current ratio for Nestle is at 1.86, and then it's currently 1.99. And its cash ratio, even though it's a little low, is currently at 0.27. So next we're going to look at Sanderson Farms. Its current ratio was the highest out of the three. It's currently 3.73, and then in 2013 it was 2.67, so that's been rising. And then the quick ratio has also been rising, and that went from 1.20 in 2013, 1.92 in 2014, and is currently at 1.99. And then Sanderson Farms cash ratio was also the highest, and it is at 1.19. So I have decided that I would like to extend my short-term loan to Sanderson Farms Incorporated. Even though each company was liquid and rising in its numbers, Sanderson Farms was always very consistent with their quick ratio as well as their cash ratio. And then when it comes to being able to pay off debt, Sanderson Farms' current ratio was the highest, and I feel as though they would be able to do that best. So next we're going to look at the company that I would want to extend a long-term loan to. So when doing this, I wanted to take a close look at each company's financial leverage to determine which would best fit. So financial leverage refers to the use of debt to acquire additional assets. So the greater amount of debt a company has, the greater their financial leverage will be. We're going to start with Kohl's. When looking at their financial leverage, it increased last year from 1.54 to 1.61. So this number isn't extremely high, but it's still growing, and it's expected to grow in the near future. Next, I looked at Nestle's financial leverage, and theirs was the highest at 2.07, but it decreased to 2.0 this year. So when looking at their numbers, their financial leverage will keep decreasing and then slowly increase in the years ahead. And then Sanderson Farm, theirs has jumped from 1.29 to 1.48, and that's the company that I decided to extend my long-term loan to because their numbers will continue to increase, keeping leverage low, which means interest payments low as well. So next we're going to take a close look at each company's profitability ratios to determine which company would be best to invest in. So when looking at the company's profitability ratios, I wanted to start with the company's price-earning ratios, which I hope is high. So the higher the price-earning share is, the more prospect it has for future growth. And then I also took a look at each company's return on equity as well as their return on assets. So obviously you want your return on equity to be high because that's your stockholders' money, and they would be very happy if that was high. So the price to earnings ratio is the measure of the share price relative to the annual net income earned by the firm per share. So I first took a look at Sanderson Farms price earning ratio, and it was the lowest of the three companies. So in the last year it jumped from 7.63 to 7.03, and then their return on equity was the highest, which was 33.6%, which I'm sure many stockholders were happy about. And then their return on assets was also the highest at 26.71, and is expected to increase in the future. So next I analyzed Nestle, and their price earning ratio went from 16.3 to 16.2. So there was a slight decrease, but it's not expected to decrease in the near future. Their return on equity has slowly risen since 2012, where it started at 15.5%, and it's currently at 22.5%. So that's a 7% increase in the last 3 years. Their return on assets has fluctuated in the past few years, but it's expected to rise from 14.96% in the near future. So the last company that we're going to look at today is Kohl's Corporation. Their price earnings are slowly dropping. In 2013 it was 17.57, and then it's currently 16.34. So this is the greatest drop so far in the price earnings between the three companies. And then also the return on equity has stayed at a steady rate of 25.03, which is pretty good. And then their return on assets has fluctuated from 12.9% to 10.2% in the last 2 years. So, in conclusion, I feel like all the companies, would be pretty good to invest in, but big shocker, I decided to invest in Sanderson Farms. So overall, even though their price earnings share was the lowest, they did have the highest ROE and ROA, which I feel would best benefit. So thank you for your time.